See, most people think they're failing because they're not working hard enough, not focused enough, not committed enough. And they believe real achievement is something only special people can reach. But here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Failure isn't permanent until you keep running on the same broken patterns instead of building frameworks. Because effort alone burns out and good intentions fade and willpower collapses when pressure builds. But frameworks don't depend on how motivated you are. They function on your best days and your worst days, especially on your worst days. So let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're pushing forward, but somehow ending up nowhere? You make plans and you commit to yourself, and you begin with fire and then reality hits. You get frustrated, sidetracked, and stuck. And quietly, without noticing it, you slip back into the same patterns. So that's not weakness. That's what happens when you operate without frameworks. Because people who win don't succeed because they're different. They succeed because their daily lives are designed in a way that makes failure almost impossible. So in this video, I'm going to reveal 5 critical frameworks that silently make achievement inevitable. So by the end of this video, you'll understand why progress feels so impossible right now and how to restructure your approach so your work finally creates real outcomes. Because once the right frameworks are locked in, winning stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like a rhythm. So without further delay, let's get into the video. Why frameworks matter more than targets. See, most people focus on targets. I want to succeed and I want to earn more and I want to feel powerful and I want to transform my reality. And there's nothing wrong with wanting that. But targets are just the destination and they don't give you the map. And that's where most people lose their way because you don't experience your life at the level of your targets. You experience your life at the level of your frameworks. So if your daily reality is chaotic, reactive, and scattered, then your outcomes will mirror that, no matter how desperately you want achievement. But when your framework is engineered for progress, then advancement starts occurring without struggle. So think about health. A target says, I want to be healthy. A framework says, I rise early. I train my body. I fuel with purpose. And I stay consistent, so one is a dream and another is a lifestyle. Because targets give you a destination, but frameworks give you traction. And traction is what makes transformation feel sustainable over the long run. So if winning feels draining right now, it's not because you're insufficient or broken. It's because your life isn't reinforced by frameworks yet. And that's exactly what we're about to change. Framework number 1. The vitality framework. So before achievement, before wealth, and before execution, there is vitality. Because without vitality, everything in existence feels more difficult than necessary. Because even basic responsibilities feel crushing, and solid strategies feel unreachable. And drive vanishes without explanation. And you can have the most brilliant targets in the world. But if you're perpetually exhausted, scattered, and depleted, then nothing actually progresses. And most people don't collapse because they lack commitment. They collapse because they're trying to construct achievement on a broken body and a clouded mind. They force themselves harder and extend their hours and dismiss the signals. And then they question why they crash. Because here's the truth most people never grasp. Your vitality is the foundation of your entire existence. That's why people who win don't just schedule time. They optimize vitality. Because time without vitality is worthless. And the framework is more straightforward than you realize. It begins with 3 fundamentals: sleep, movement, nutrition. Because when your body is optimized, then your mind automatically stabilizes. When your vitality is consistent, your concentration becomes stronger, and your emotions become steadier, and your choices become wiser. And suddenly, commitment doesn't feel agonizing or artificial anymore. It feels organic and maintainable. So construct your vitality framework like this. Rest at consistent hours and rise with purpose and activate your body daily. And finally, consume in a way that fuels clarity, not collapse. Because achievement doesn't begin in your schedule. And it doesn't begin in your task list. It begins in your biology. And when your vitality framework is solid, then everything else in existence becomes simpler to construct. Framework number 2, the concentration framework. Now, here's where most people break down. They desire achievement, but they exist in perpetual interruption, like alerts platforms, communications, and relentless chaos. Their awareness is being fractured in countless directions, and then they question why nothing advances. So here's the truth. What you direct your awareness towards, you evolve into. So if your concentration is fragmented, then your outcomes will be fragmented too. And people who win don't always invest longer hours. They invest protected hours, and they don't depend on drive. They construct a concentration framework. And the framework is straightforward. Instead of attempting to handle everything simultaneously, they select 1 or 2 significant priorities for the day. And they remove interruptions before they start. And they determine when effort begins and when it concludes. Because concentration isn't about forcing harder. It's about eliminating what's irrelevant. So ask yourself, what hijacks my awareness daily? And what creates chaos but no actual progress? And what keeps me occupied but not advancing? And then engineer your surroundings around those insights. So silence your device from meaningless alerts. Then establish a zone that signals your brain, this is where we execute. Because when concentration becomes a framework, advancement stops feeling crushing. You stop responding to existence and you start designing it. Framework number 3, the self-perception framework. This is the most transformative framework of all because everything you execute, every pattern, every choice, every move originates from how you perceive yourself. But most people attempt to alter their patterns without altering their self-perception, and that never endures. And they express things like, I want to be committed, and I want to be powerful, and I want to be accomplished. But internally, they still perceive themselves as someone who delays, surrenders quickly, and constantly battles. So without awareness, their actions keep reflecting that previous self-perception. And here's the transformation people who win make. They stop questioning, what should I execute? And they start questioning, who am I evolving into? Because once your self-perception transforms, then your patterns follow automatically. So you construct a self-perception framework like this. First, you precisely define the person you intend to be. Not ambiguously, not eventually, and not possibly, just precisely. Like, I am someone who appears consistently, and I am someone who completes what I initiate. And I am someone who advances, even if incrementally. Then you validate it with small and sustainable actions. Because every action you execute is a declaration for the person you're evolving into. And over the long run, those small declarations rewrite your self-concept. And once your self-perception aligns with achievement, then reliability stops feeling manufactured. It feels like your nature. Framework number 4, the implementation framework. See, concepts don't transform existence. Implementation does, and most people don't collapse because they lack concepts. They collapse because they never complete anything. They overanalyze, and they wait for ideal conditions. And they postpone just slightly longer and gradually traction disappears. But people who win don't depend on waves of drive. They construct an implementation framework because drive disappears. Structure remains, and the structure is more straightforward than you realize. They divide major targets into small, achievable actions. And they calendar action, not just aspiration. And they concentrate on advancement, not flawlessness. Instead of questioning, can I accomplish this? They question, what's the next small move? Because action generates understanding, and understanding generates assurance. So if achievement keeps feeling overwhelming, then it's not because you're inadequate. It's because initiating always feels excessively difficult. So make responsibility smaller and minimize the resistance and decrease the threshold to action. Because once you initiate, even imperfectly, then traction assumes control. Framework number 5, the surroundings framework. Here's something most people completely overlook. Your surroundings influence your patterns more than determination ever could. If your surroundings are interrupting, then you will be interrupted. And if your surroundings enable poor patterns, then you'll adopt them without even awareness. But people who win don't battle their surroundings. They architect it. They position cues of their targets where they can observe them, and they eliminate temptations before they become obstacles. And they immerse themselves with influences that propel them onward, not drag them backward. Because your surroundings are constantly communicating to you. It declares what's standard, what's permissible, and what kind of existence you're meant to experience. So alter the communication. Organize your zone and arrange your resources, and be deliberate about what you consume, study, and absorb. Because when your surroundings reinforce your targets, then commitment stops being a battle, and achievement starts feeling simpler and almost inevitable. Why achievement feels impossible without frameworks. Now, let's unite everything. Without frameworks, you depend on drive and you resist interruption constantly, and you replicate the same errors, and your existence begins feeling like perpetual struggle. But with frameworks, your vitality becomes reliable, and your concentration stays defended, and your self-perception aligns with your targets, and action becomes reflexive, and your surroundings reinforce advancement. And suddenly, achievement stops feeling overwhelming, not because existence becomes simple, but because you stop exhausting vitality battling yourself. And that's the real transformation. How to begin without crushing yourself. Here's the principle most people overlook. You don't construct all the frameworks simultaneously. That's how people crash, and that's how people abandon everything. You begin with one, just one. Maybe it's repairing your rest, or maybe it's defending your concentration, or maybe it's reconstructing how you perceive yourself. Because frameworks don't function immediately. They function over duration. So don't accelerate. Construct gradually and deliberately, because achievement isn't impossible forever. It's only impossible until your frameworks execute the effort for you. So, if this video helped you perceive achievement differently or made you recognize what's been absent, then please hit the like button and subscribe for more clarity-driven content, and start constructing the frameworks your future self will appreciate.